I got a couple things under contract right now, and when I close on those, it'll put me right around 1,100. So yeah, I'm right at 1,000 right now.
Awesome. Yeah. That's phenomenal. And are those majority syndications or joint ventures? How do you have that kind of split up?
Majority is syndications, a couple of joint ventures thrown in there. And as we're scaling, we're starting to do less syndication, more joint venture, right? Which I think is a pretty typical path. Yeah. But yeah, for now, it's a lot of syndications.
Yeah. I mentioned to a few people like the syndication front. Like, I mean, I've sold properties that were syndications just because they were good for the investors, but I wanted to keep them, but it's like, well, I've got to take care of the investors. That's my job. So let me make sure that I do that. And then after you sell it, you're like, man, it breaks my heart. Like, just didn't want to get rid of some properties,
It's funny you say that. Like, before you and I had a call before you and I did this, and that was a conversation. I got one of the properties I mentioned that we have in a contract. One of the guys who was like, well, how do you want to run this? I was like, if I have my way, I want to run it as a JV. And he's like, why? And I'm like, because I want to keep this one.
Yeah.
Like, this sits in a really, really rapidly gentrifying area of Charlotte, and I want to keep it.
Yeah.
And so I was like, if I have my way, if I can structure it right, we'll JV this.
Nice.
Yeah, because I'm with you. I've sold some. I'm literally selling one right now that if it wasn't a syndication, I'd keep it.
Yeah.
But I need to be able to give that investor money back.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's. I'm glad I've done syndications, and I'm glad I've done joint ventures. It makes me. I mean, I would rather do I'd rather you and I get together and buy a 10 unit than buy 100 unit that's a syndication at this point, just because it's like. I'd much rather have the control, have the long-term view on it, to sell it when I want to sell it, refinance it when I want to refinance it, and not ever send another investor email again, but at the same point, if I do syndications, and as long as, to me, it's one of those communication things, right? With the investors, like, okay, well, you better know that, like, and I've told this to multiple GoBundance guys. I'm like, if I ever do a syndication, it's probably going to be with a bunch of GoBundance guys that understand real estate, because I'm never sending, like, if you want the P&L, I'll send it to you, but I'm not sending you investor emails. We're going to hold on to this thing for as long as humanly possible. Like, it's a syndication because I'm the one managing it, but dagnabbit, we're not doing a 5-year turn on this thing, a 3-year turn on this thing. We're going to hold on to these. But that's, I enjoy the freedom of a JV and knowing that I get to make all the decisions. Me and my partner.
I agree. And, I think part of, not to get too far off topic here, but I think part of what people have missed on, especially in the last 6-7 years, when I first started doing like real estate in 2006, I mean, there was some flipping to it, but for the most part, real estate back, then was long-term, right?
Yeah.
Everything real estate was long-term. And truly, if you look at like the ultra high net worth people in this country, they don't sell real estate. They buy it and they sit on it. They just buy it to keep it, and it passes for generations, right?
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I talked to some guys about. I was like, man, over these last 5 or 6 years, everybody got so into this appreciation, let me grab my equity, that it's almost like people forgot that traditionally real estate is something you buy and just hold.
Yeah.
I was at an event a couple weeks back, and one of the guys that was there was literally telling people, he's like, there's multiple ways to tap the equity without selling the real estate.
For sure.
He's big on the whole BRRRR strategy in multifamily and single family. And he's like, man, if I can tap the equity and go buy another one and never dispose of the real estate, he's like, that's the way I'm going after it.
Yeah.
So
that's the way the generational wealth is going to be built too, because you're going to keep holding on to that. Yeah.
That's exactly what he said. He was like, that's how you build generational wealth. And I'm like, there's something to be said for that.
Don't build the wealth by selling it, to build the wealth by keeping it, So I want to keep it, which is funny because I've sold almost everything because it was a great time to sell, and B, when I was doing a majority syndications, it was a great time to sell. So it was time to sell. And that's like, now I'm over here fiending and itching and like, I need something. So it's, it's rough.
You got that deal need, right? Like, you got to do a deal.
But God forbid, there aren't any daggum deals out there right now. Well, I mean, there are. Don't get me wrong. There's always deals. It's just a matter of what are you doing to go find them? And I'm struggling right now with everything else I've got going on to go and actually find the deals. So, but so good on you for actually having a deal that you're closing on. Our 2 deals are closing on right now, so that's a plus.
Thanks.
So do you include? I know that. So I'm going to start with the one that I know you include your daughter in on because she drew the logo for it, right? The barbaric Yep. Yeah, go ahead and switch it over. There it is. Yes. So for those of you who are just listening, you should be on the YouTube one as well. You can see the video and see the logo that his daughter drew. But so besides this logo, what else, or if anything, does your daughter kind of get included on in the business? What kind of conversations do you have about business with your daughter?
Yeah, so a couple of things. I'm going to start with probably my proudest moment of when she kind of walked in my office. She has this account that we put money in, and it's one of those things we use. Like, we put some money in it every month, and then like at Christmas, if she gets money, we always have this deal with her of any money you give us, we'll match it dollar for dollar, and it goes in the account, but you can't touch it. Like, it has to stay in the account for a while, right? And somewhere, it was last year. Last year, she walked in. She's like, "Can I see my account?" She just likes to see it from time to time. So I logged in, showed it to her, and she goes, "Man, that's it. Like, I thought it grew. It's not growing fast enough."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Well, it's savings
at 0.01%." Yes.
Yeah. I'm like, it's savings account.
Yeah.
And but then she literally goes, "Don't you do things to help invest, like, people make money faster?" And I'm like, yeah, I would say, I'd like to say I do that. And she goes, "I want to do that."
Nice.
Cool. So sat down with her and I said, "Well, this is what I do." And she goes, "I want to do that. I want to invest in one of your deals." I said, "All right, well, if you're going to do it," I said, "this is how we're going to run it. I'm going to do with you exactly what I do with other investors. I'm going to present you deals. You figure out which one you want to invest in." And I did. I presented a couple of deals to her, and proud dad moment, right? Like, I presented her one, and in my head, I'm sitting there going, "This is the one you should get it."
Mm-hmm.
I didn't say that to her, but I'm like, "This is," and she looks at it and she goes, "This is the one I want to do."
Yes.
And I was like, "All right." She picked up something. Either that or she's just good at math. I put some money with it because there was a minimum investment, which she didn't have. So I put some money with it to hit the number. We created our own little LLC, and we invested in that deal. And she gets, when it does a distribution, she gets hers. It goes into her account. I get mine. And so that's one thing she's done. So she's invested in real estate, and then obviously she's helped me with my logo over here. And then what's something else the other thing she's done is part of her volunteer work is I sit on the board of a family housing nonprofit here in this area. And part of the way she gets her volunteer hours is she volunteers for the nonprofit.
Nice.
So she gets to help out with that as well. So those are some more of the ways she gets involved with me.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, and if she's good at the math, maybe you could teach her how to underwrite. She can start underwriting all your deals for you too.
She uses Google Sheets, man. I'm an Excel guy.
Yeah, I'm an Excel guy. I can't do Google Sheets.
I can't get.
I was literally on a call this morning with somebody, and she was like, "Oh, could you share that? That looks like it's on Excel, not." And I said, "Yeah, I'll try to put it in our Google Drive, but golly, I hate Google Sheets. Like, I just can't."
I do too, man.
Yeah, I think it's just I've been so used to Excel.
And it's funny how the lingo changes, right? Like, I'll say to my daughter, I'm like, "Do you do that in Excel?" And she's like, "Sheets, Dad, Sheets." I'm like, "It's Excel."
It's Excel. Yes, exactly. Sheets was built because of Excel. But man, I've been in Excel for a long time, so that's all I know. It's all I work with, and a lot of the formulas and stuff don't really work as well in Sheets. Or maybe it's just because I'm old and don't like to learn new things. So that might be it.
I think that's part of it. That's certainly it with me. Like, you know what? That's kind of how people are like, "How did you know when to get out of technology?" I was like, when I became the old guy in the office, like, I was like, it's time for me to get out.
Yeah. And I'm not even old, but I'm very old for my age, if that makes sense. And it's like, I don't do well with technology. Like, I was one of the last people that I knew that got a smartphone, and it's like, I've got zero desire to do all of that. Like, some of the technology we use in our business, there was a while where we were switching all these different programs in ADPI that I was like, I haven't even learned the first one yet. And now you just threw another one at me, and I have no idea what I'm doing. And like, I don't know how to do any of this. Like, it baffles my mind.